Hello and welcome to the Island Podcast. My name is Ivan Grigorisian. I'm your typical host. And with me today, we have Coach Byron Schrader from the Cali Condors, Kim Brackin from the LA Current, Byron MacDonald from Toronto Titans, and Dorina Szekeres from the Team Iron. Guys, hello and welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for making it.
Good to be here.
Hi.
To start things off, our typical question, what did this match implement for your guys' team and how important was this? I mean, probably this was of major importance, but for example, for you, Brian, did the Cali Condors have any concerns heading into the semis? Were you kind of aiming for making it to the final and this was the goal, or were you guys already there in your heads? How was it?
We're always worried, and especially when you have the talent that we were racing in this semifinal. You know, Iron, Current, Toronto, they're not easy teams, and if you have an off day, you might find yourself third or fourth, and that always made us nervous. So we wanted to be good every time. We wanted to make sure we were winning every time if we could, and moving on to the best place.
Thanks, Brian. Kim, how was it for the LA Current? I mean, was it much of the same for you, or you guys had sort of a main competitor in mind, maybe Team Iron, maybe Toronto Titans, that you were concerned about and you had as a goal in mind, if we can beat this team, we're making it to the semis? How was it for you?
Similar to Brian and the Cali Condors, like great teams to go up against. We had swum Iron and Toronto previously, so there was, we kind of knew what we were up against there and knew that they would be really strong competitors. I think we all kind of knew the Cali Condors were going to move on to the final. So I think just putting ourselves in a position where we would try to be top two was what we were looking for and how we made up our lineup. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Kim. And we actually spoke with a bunch of LA Current swimmers, and I asked them a controversial question, let's put it this way. I asked them, is there's one team that you guys really want to beat really bad, disregarding all of the results, just your main competitor in your eyes? And they said the Cali Condors. We want to beat the Cali Condors. Did you feel this atmosphere going on in the LA Current? Like, this is our main competitor, we got to go after them. And Brian, same question to you. Did you guys have the same atmosphere towards LA Current?
There was a lot of talk about being like the California team. All the Californians said nobody calls it Cali. Nobody calls it Cali. It's California. But I think that they had a lot of. I think the LA Current had a lot of friends on the Cali Condor team as well, like true good friends, and there was just that kind of rivalry. I know, speaking for myself, sorry, energy, but I always felt Cali was the team to beat overall. So being a competitive person, I always just felt like that was the team to beat, because I felt like just looking at the season in the very beginning, their team was just been stacked. It would be hard for anybody to beat them.
Thanks, Kim.
We always felt like we didn't want to be in the same bracket as Energy. So that was kind of where we wanted to be starting. And then we had I'll just speak to the dynamic. We had a lot of people that have been on the same teams, good rivals, but I think it was this semifinal, and Kim, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think our teams were facing each other in the warm down, warm up area. Is that right? Do you remember?
Yeah.
I think we were. So we're in this team area in the warm up, warm down area where the TV monitors were facing one another. So anybody that wasn't racing was watching the TV monitors, but that meant both teams were facing each other. So there was a lot of energy back and forth back there from both teams watching every race play out. That's something I'll always remember because I thought it got very energetic back there.
Thanks, Brian. I wish we had more cameras set up to capture this. That would have been a special moment. Dorina, what about you guys? What about Team Iron? Did you have actual aspirations of making it to the final? Was this the goal? Or was it to like go out with a bang in a way? And no disrespect given, but the three teams you guys were facing are huge teams. And What was the mentality?
Yeah, the bank would have been to make the final. And I'll be a bit more specific. For us, Ellie Curran was the target very clearly. We just beat Toronto at the last match. So we were quite confident that we could do that again. And, last season we just missed the final. We got 5th last season as well. And it was Ellie Curran who sneaked into the 4th spot, even though it was a bit different setup with the 2 American and 2 European teams. But again, the goal was clear to try to make the final. We didn't think that Cali Condors was beatable. I don't think we have faced Ellie Curran before the semifinal this season. So we kind of just saw their results. We saw that they were a very, very strong team. So for us to make the final, we knew that we would have to have an amazing day, and they would have had to make some mistakes, which they didn't. And we were unfortunately a bit off. I think we got a bit tired by this match. So we were not as close as we hoped to Ellie Curran, but that was the goal.
Thanks, Dorina. And yeah, it definitely showed in the match. For example, I spoke to New York Breakers for the last semifinals, and they had the mentality of going out with a bang. They didn't really have aspirations of making it to the finals, and no rocks thrown into the garden of New York Breakers whatsoever. But it seemed like their atmosphere was a little bit down. Their team energy altogether was a little bit down in that semifinal match. They weren't performing as well as they were in the preliminary stage. Not you guys, though. I think that goal of making it to the final, the meet is not over yet, really helped you guys. Would you agree?
Yes, on one side, but on the other side, I think we wanted it too much. That's what I saw from day one. And then day 2, we kind of let it go a bit, and the swimmers got a bit more relaxed and they swam better. I think we wanted it a bit too much, and we just couldn't quite get there. We'll see that we had some amazing swims still, but overall, it was a bit weaker match for us than match 9.
Thank you, Dorina. Byron, and how was it for the Toronto Titans? I mean, you guys are the rookie team. You made it to the semis. Is mission complete in a way, or is the mission making it to the final? And what was the team atmosphere altogether coming into this?
The goal from day one was to make the playoffs, and to be very honest, swimming is a fairly predictable sport, and it was pretty obvious we weren't going to make the top 4. We just didn't have enough horses. We're an expansion team. We came in and 80% of the top swimmers in the world were pretty well taken by the time, we were trying to recruit our team. So we were quite pleased to be in the playoffs, and knowing that we weren't going to advance, I also, like the others, felt Cali was the best team around. We were actually kind of fortunate. We didn't actually swim them during the contest, during the swim-in sort of competitions. So, but I knew how good they were, because our top swimmer, Kylie Moss, who trains with me at the University of Toronto, she swam on Cali last year, and I went to a meet and I stayed with the Cali group. So I was very familiar with their team. They've done a great job. So our goal was basically to just, I guess, in the words that I just heard, go out with a bang. All right, this is our first year. Let's see what we can do. We had our sights set on iron. We didn't feel we could necessarily beat LA Current. And we thought maybe, iron beat us the games before, or our last competition. But at the same time, we wanted to stay with them as close as we could. They have 1 or 2 stars that just nail us with jackpot points. And if you took those away, we probably could beat them. But with those in there, it was a bit tough. And the final thing I'll say is that we came in a week later than all the other teams. And as much as I think that was fantastic, it allowed us to stay home for an extra week and not be quarantined for that extra week. The downside was our schedule was a bit compressed. So we did have a few folks that were able to ride it right through the whole time. But I think this was our 2, 4, 6, 8 days of competition over 14 or something, right? So or 16 days. So we were a bit tired, and some of our swimmers did run out of gas. But we did what we wanted to do. We stayed with iron. I think we were ahead of iron after the first day, and they have a better second day. So we knew we were kind of hanging on by our fingernails on the second day to try to beat them.
All right. And you guys had a showdown till the end, 100%. But with that being said, let's dive into day one, first event. And the first event we're going to discuss is the female 100 meters butterfly. And sort of the first feedback I would like to hear is actually from you, Byron. You had Rebecca Smith and Louise Hansen perform for the Toronto Titans at this event. Rebecca swam at 56.55 and Louise swam at 56.14. What were your impressions of the race altogether? And specifically for Louise, I mean, she became quite a star even during this ISL season. She was game whenever it came to the 100 meters butterfly every time. Did she feel beaten down a little bit after getting third? Did she want to beat Gastadella and Dahlia, or was she sort of prepared for 56 O's around what I'm capable of right now?
Well, I would argue she wasn't satisfied. She wanted to win. She started the meet off, the whole contest, the ISL, our very first meet, and she did win the gold medal in the 100-meter butterfly. So she basically wanted to keep that up. And to be honest, she was a little disappointed. She was consistent as hell. Everything was basically 56, 56.1. So, I mean, that was a good sign. She wasn't running out of gas. But at the same time, there's more in the tank for her. And I mentioned this in some of our earlier podcasts that she was a bit of a victim of the pandemic. And what I mean by that is she had to get out of California because she was afraid she had just finished school, but she was afraid she might get stuck there if she waited too long. So then she flew to Sweden, changed programs, of course, trained in Sweden. And then she wanted to do her master's degree at Loughborough University in England. So she had to get to England, but she couldn't get there right away from Sweden because Sweden was, at that time, had too many cases. So she actually had to go to Copenhagen for a couple of weeks. And then she went back. Then she went to England. So we're talking, once you start changing around that much, with two of those coaches were new coaches for her. So I think she'll be even better in the future. She proved that short course yards at USC in the university season, the previous season. So she did a great job. She raced well. She medaled in every meet. So there's nothing wrong, but she knows there's more. And I believe her. I think there's more there as well. I'd like to just mention briefly Rebecca Smith, because Rebecca doesn't get a lot of attention back home in Canada for the simple reason that we had Penny Alexiak win a medal at the Olympic Games in the butterfly. And then 2019, we had a girl that nobody's really heard of win the World Championships and beat Sarah Sostrom and Maggie McNeil. So Rebecca's kind of third, but there's only two ever allowed to travel. And so this was her lifetime best time, 56.5. She's going to give it a shot to make the Olympic team, I think, for Canada in the 100 fly.
For sure. And the 56.5 is an incredibly impressive result. She's up there with the best. And specifically,
so that's a real good sign. And that, you know what, you got two people in the top five. It was a good beginning for our team, this very first race in the semifinal.
And so chatting with Louise actually 2 days ago on the podcast, she said she's yet to collect all of her stuff from LA. She's basically living off a backpack pretty much. It's madness.
It is madness. Well, and she's only been in Loughborough for a couple of weeks because she had to get to Sweden for a while to sort things out. So yeah, she's a bit of a nomad at this point, traveling all over the world. So, but a lot of people can do it, and she's proven pretty tough. So we're looking forward to the next season with her as one of our top swimmers, obviously.
Thank you, Byron. Brian, a question to you. I mean, Natalie Hines and Kelsey Dahlia for the Cali Condors in this event, 57.36 from Natalie and 55.64 from Kelsey. First of all, why Natalie, not Erica? And regarding Kelsey, 55.64, incredibly fast. But a similar question as to Byron, was she satisfied after that? Because there's always Beryl Castadella just a little bit in front who snatched all the points.
Man, I don't know that anybody could have stopped Beryl. She was gathering energy as she went through the whole competition. Just really fun to watch. I'm sure she brought an extra bunch of energy to the current. But Kelsey, I don't think is ever satisfied. I think she wanted to win this. I felt like she was kind of sharpening up here. So I think it was a good race for her for this semifinal, but by no means do I think she felt satisfied by it, especially she just wanted to go faster. And then we were still experimenting with Natalie and Erica's event order and where Erica could be the most dangerous. She was getting better as she went. And I think Natalie she's one of the most dangerous women out there. I think nobody can beat her to 15 or 20. And we're still trying to find the best combination for her as well. But she played a strong role, and we just wanted to see what she'd throw down in the 100 fly.
For sure. And yeah, 57.36 is still absolutely great. But fair enough, Brian. It just seemed like it's a little more natural of an event for Erica. But
It is. I'd have to look through the results, but I think this is maybe a day she went the 200 free later.
she did, and she did the backstroke also.
Yeah, so I think we were just trying to spare her some swims and see if we could keep her fresh through the rest of the day.
Thank you, Brian. And Kim, for the LA Current, I mean, what a way to start the day. You have your main rivals in Cali Condors, and they were arguably the favorites in this 100 meters butterfly, but yet you have Beryl snatch it with a 55.32, and Ali also 56.30. That's even arguably more impressive than the 55.3 from Beryl.
I was hoping you would bring up Ali, because she started the meet really as a relay only swimmer, not the meet, the season, and really just earned her way into swimming individual events. And she's somebody who I was a little bit in charge of throughout the season, and so it was really fun to see her blossom and get to and really earn her spot. And I think this meet was just a real confidence builder for her in particular. And yeah, this event, I mean, I think that LA is pretty lucky to have that opening event that just builds momentum right away. And Beryl, like, she's not going to lose. I think she wanted to own this event over the season. Again, she was building confidence. I agree with Brian. She just kept building energy over the course of the season. And I did not doubt for a second that she would win this event. She just brings that confidence with her. So that was a really fun way to start the meet off. And yeah, I agree. Both women just really brought it and kind of, okay, we're setting the standard for the rest of this 2-day session here.
Thank you, Kim. And with that, let's move to the next event, and it is the male 100 meters butterfly. And Dorina, my first question goes to you. I mean, regarding the previous event, you had Ranomi Kramayoyo and Emily Beckman perform for you. You played with Ranomi quite a bit. 57.32 is not probably quite what you were looking for. But in this next event, you had Ramon Clance, who swam at 51.09, and Nicolas Santos, 49.88. I believe 49.88 is an excellent performance from Nicolas. And I wanted to ask you, how important was this? Because after this, you had a couple of amazing swims, even in day one, a couple of big upsets that we're going to talk about. But it seemed like I remember watching this event live, and you guys really got excited after that 49.8 from Nicolas. Tell me more about it.
Yeah, for Nicolas, his whole season was just amazing to watch what he achieved. I think probably for all the teams to see what he can do at age of 40. I mean, this was his second time under 50 seconds. I think this was the second one. So he was right on his best time that he just got at the last match. So, we couldn't have wanted anything more from him. And the fact that he got fourth with this just proves that the field was just unbelievable. That it is what it is. Same with Ramon. I think that was the second best time of his life, I guess. He's more like a 200 flyer. So both of them really stepped up for this event. And to go back to the first one with Ranomi and Emily, that was kind of, by the semifinals, we got used to that our start was really slow. Our first day was not our best, our first event especially. So we got used to it, that we didn't panic. We knew that we have our events coming, as you said, the next couple of events, and including the 100 men's fly. Again, it was just, with Caleb and Tom, it is what it is.
For sure. Thanks, Dorina. And another question about Nicolas. Nicolas was dangerously close to the world record in the 15 meters butterfly in the previous two matches of Team Iron. We'll get to the 50 fly in this match, but did you have any aspirations at all before this match to save Nicholas completely and maybe give him a shot at that world record in the 50 fly?
Yes, and he did ask for it. He did ask at the last match to somehow try to rest him on the first day, because on the second day, I'm pretty sure he didn't have any other events. He just wanted a lighter load on day one, which, to be honest, just to give that to him, I wouldn't have done it. But it turned out at the end that for the team, we've done it anyway, because the way we kind of switched up the lineup a bit to put more focus on the 4x1 medley, to try to win that and choose skins, which we were farther away than we thought that we could be. But for that reason, we rested him from the 4x1 freestyle relay. So this match, actually, he got a lighter load, which ended up helping our medley relay as well as his individual performance. So, but unfortunately, he was really close again to that world record, but he didn't quite get it.
Thank you, Dorina. Yeah, maybe we'll wish for this world record at 41 next season, Nicholas. It would be even more spectacular. Thank you, Dorina.
I think it can happen.
For sure. And Kim, what about for the LA Current? You guys had Maxime Rooney and Tom Shields perform for you. 50.3 from Maxime and 49.01 from Tom. Tell me your overall feedback about the race, but more specifically, are you as a coach satisfied with Tom's performance here?
Well, I'm pretty positive Tom gave everything he could. I mean, he's such a competitor. I know that he enjoys the opportunity when he gets to race Caleb head to head. So I would say yes, I'm absolutely satisfied with Tom's performance. It was right. I think it was his second best time of the season, if I remember correctly from the little research I did before we started.
I think this was his absolute best time of the season.
Was it his absolute best? I didn't know if he was faster in the final. Yeah, and what else can you ask for? And you know what I loved about Tom is after every race, he would walk back over to the box and give a couple high fives to people, whether he did his best race or not. Like, he's such a team swimmer. He would just wanted to go out and perform the best he could for the team. So he'd give a little feedback and apologize for not winning, or say something right off the bat. Oh, if I'd done better on that third wall, or, you know, is really interesting. I've never coached Tom before, so that was really interesting to see his demeanor with the coaching staff and with his teammates. But yeah, absolutely satisfied with Tom. Maxime was, you know, really similar, like always positive, always trying to do better. He was a little more up and down throughout the season. And I think some of his was what Dorina said earlier, like wanting it so much. And he recognized at the end of the whole season, like he really just needs to go out and have fun racing and not put extra pressure on himself, what needs to happen. So yeah, I think both of those guys did a great job in this field, and yeah, we were very happy with Tom.
Thanks, Kim. And Maxim is still very young. He's probably going to get the experience and understand the better way to race for him, for sure. But the reason I asked this question regarding Tom is because just a little less than an hour later, Tom managed to swim almost a second faster in the relay. And we'll get to that relay, but 48.1. Don't get me wrong, 49.0 is still incredibly impressive, but a 48.1?
Yeah,
did you get?
That's what I'm saying. It's clear, like, what comes off that medley relay? Skins, right? Like, I mean, those guys and women, they get up there every time. And I love that Dorina was like, we're trying to win the medley. You know, like, we were trying to win the medleys too. We thought maybe we could beat Cali in the women's medley. Like, you have to go out there trying. You have to put your four best people up, and they have to do everything they can, because there's so much riding on that versus just medley relay points.
Thank you, Kim.
Yeah.
And Brian, I mean, this was a huge event for the Cali Condors. 49-5 from Martin, 6 points, great result, and a 48-9 from Caleb, and 15 points go the way of Caleb. First of all, with hindsight, 48-9 doesn't look as impressive, but if we didn't know about what's up to come in the final, this would be the fastest 100 fly in the season so far. You guys must have been pumped about that.
Absolutely. And, I'll just go back and reference what Kim said. Condors are excited to start the meet with 100 flies. Both our women and our men are strong. And, I think this was a little bit of an anticipated race between Tom and Caleb, just because in the first meet, Tom beat Caleb, first event, first competition in Budapest. So I'm sure that people were getting ready mentally, not only because it was a semifinal, but no one likes to get beat. So it was a good, fun race. And Marcin, I mean, that guy is such a pro. He gets ready for everything. He's very cerebral. He knows what his role is, but he's a very talented athlete, and we were really lucky to have that 1-2 punch.
Brian. And arguably, I think Martin, the season of ISL is when he really kind of stepped into the spotlight of swimming in a way, because if not for Caleb, Martin would have been a superstar in your guys' team, right?
Absolutely. And in the 100 IM and the 50 fly, he played a lot of roles for us, and he was very rarely out of the top 3.
Thank you, Brian. And with that being said, let's move to the next event, and it is the female 200 backstroke. And Dorina, I wanted to start this discussion from you. Do you have Daria Zevina and Katinka also in this event? If this was 3 years ago, I would say you guys are the number 1 favorites for this event for sure. No questions asked. But
talking about back?
Yes, there were female 200 backstroke.
Oh, okay.
You had Daria Zevina and Katinka also once again in this event, 206.6 from Daria and 205.34 from Katinka. Probably not the results you were looking for. How was the team atmosphere after that? You kind of got the ball rolling with Nicolas Santos' performance. Did that sort of put you back a little bit, or were you fine with that? That didn't frustrate the team too much?
We didn't really expect much better results, to be honest. We had Katinka sit out the 2-back for most of the matches, and we only put her in because we switched the relay only position a bit, and we put Ustinova and Zavina did the 2-back for the most part. But now we decided to put Ustinova in the relay only position, and then it was no other choice than Katinka to swim the 2-back. And based on her performance this season, we knew that the fastest she could do maybe 2:04, but not really better than that. So this 2:05 is right on what we thought. In terms of Zavina, this was probably her slowest time this season. But again, for her as well, it's maybe 2:04 that she could have gotten. But seems like she got tired for the semifinal. So we weren't upset. We knew that the backstrokes on the women's side were not our strong suit. So it was okay.
Thanks, Dorina. And to be honest with you, even 2:04s wouldn't have changed much in terms of points altogether.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Dorina. And with that being said, Byron, how was this race for your team? Because in my perspective, you guys were the quite heavy favorites coming into this. Lisa Bratton and Kylie Massey, they were the stars of 200 backstroke in the season leading up to this, with the only real challenger coming in the face of Emily Seabaum, I would argue. But here, they end up coming second and fourth. And I wanted to ask you, how did this affect them? And they must have been not happy about this. A 2:03 and a 2:02. These girls are capable of going a 2:01 both, right?
Yeah, and I mean, Lisa won the opening meet, the first meet we had. I think it was 2:00.09 actually, right? So which was a major breakthrough, by the way, for Lisa. So I think she was running out of gas. We're plain and simple, and which was surprising to me. I mean, I don't coach Lisa, but I coached her in my group while we were there, and she was training hard between the workouts and the sessions. So I would have thought she could have maintained it a little bit better, and no fault to her. It wasn't like she wasn't trying, but she was just a little bit off, and a little bit out of gas, I guess. And Kylie was about a half a second off, maybe 3, 4, 5 tenths, maybe. So she was pretty steady most of the competition. We expected Beta to be really tough to beat. And the basic premise there, if you watch the meet, is the race was won on the underwater kicks. I mean, Beta is one of the best underwater kickers in the world, along with Olivia Smoliga, and Kylie is not. And long course, I don't think it would be a contest, but this isn't a long course meet, is it, Ivan? It's short course, right? So
for sure.
you got to get better on the turns, and it's a work in progress for Kylie. And so the team felt pretty good about it. Yes, it would have been nice to pick up an extra point or two, but again, our battle was against iron. And if I remember right, I wrote it down, we outscored them 12-3. So you know what? That was pretty good. All right. We've now got like a 20-something point lead on iron. So we're starting to meet out basically where we wanted to.
All right. Thank you, Byron. You did say, though, day 2 for Team Iron is the heavy hitter day. You guys need to create a lead in the first day.
We need a big lead. we're gonna hold them off. We need a big lead. So every point we can get is a good one.
Thank you, Byron. And I'm also surprised that for Lisa, her gas was running out a little bit, because in the season to come, Lisa looked a little bit unstoppable, especially with her endurance. It seemed like it's not going to be a factor.
Yeah, I was surprised, and to be honest, she was surprised too. We really thought she had a little bit more in the tank, and I don't want to take anything away from her, but it just somehow just didn't quite there. She couldn't come home with the rest of the field like she needed to. She made her move halfway through the race, and then then didn't move anymore, right? So yeah, that was unfortunate. But I mean, she's made her presence as a very world-class 200 backstroker. So I was pleased that we were able to name her to our team, because really it was one of the last-minute additions, and it was a great addition.
For sure. Thank you, Byron. And yeah, the resources of the body aren't endless, and the 2 back is not an easy event to swim time to time. Thank you, Byron. And Brian, we spoke about the one fly, man one fly, being a huge event for you guys. I would argue this event was even bigger because it wasn't as expected. And Haley Flickinger beat Nelson 202.99, 201.65. For both of these girls, this was huge. I mean, Beta was up their game in the 2 bag previously, but this was her time to shine. And for Haley, I mean, no disrespect given, but I had no idea Haley has a 202.200 backstroke in her before this. Sorry, Brian, you're muted.
Sorry about that.
There we go.
I'm not sure we did either, but Haley won the best time here, and again was just rolling through the semis to get ready for finals, and was just such a workhorse, not only prepping outside of competitions, but she got it done inside our competitions as well. And this was a huge bonus for us, and I think it was great for her. And then Beta, we'll just speak to the emotion of, and just the ability to have this event when it happened, because Beta lost out on her senior year of NC2A championships and then Olympic trials. So I think she was hungry, and definitely a rookie, but wanted to make sure she was ready, and she was so consistent in practice. To Byron's point, really fun to watch her dial in kick counts and stroke counts almost every other practicing the underwater kick. So fun to watch, and just very, very consistent, as you can tell by her splits.
Oh, for sure, she was. And Brian, would you agree with me that Beta Nelson, I mean, obviously point-wise, she was a huge contribution from the team. But even looking beyond points, I believe she was a huge reason the Cali Condors were able to win the entire season. Because, I mean, coming into the season, we knew you had a magnificent backstroke in Olivia Smoliga. But Beta Nelson stepped up so much that Olivia had the ability to rest out some of these backstroke events without being worried and save up for skins, for relays. Would you agree with me?
Oh, I would agree with you. Maybe I wouldn't say that Olivia got to rest up. Her plate was full and she wanted it to be full. She was racing hard, and let's not forget, some of these athletes were making some serious money because they were racing well and racing a lot. And but Beta, when you have one great athlete, it just allows you to be flexible with your lineup. So Olivia didn't have to go the tuner back, and we could be, we moved Beta around a lot between some fly events, IM events, and backstroke events. And really what it did was it didn't have to make us have the same lineup every time, which I think trying to get through 6 competitions without getting mentally stale is part of the battle as well.
Thank you, Brian. And with that, let's move to our next event, and it is the male 50 meters freestyle. And straight from the get-go, Dorina, Tom DeBoer, 21:04, and Maxim Lobanovsky, 21:02. You guys must have been happy about this, and this is a great result. Just one question: any thoughts of putting Nicolas Santos in there, or was he out after the 100 meters butterfly? He did his duty.
No, especially this match, as I mentioned earlier, we tried to rest him for the medley relay, and rest all our guys, to be honest, all the top 4 guys as much as we could, except for Emre. He's the only one who we couldn't really rest enough, probably. But Tom and Maxim we never really thought of switching any of them. Maybe we did, I think 1 or 2 times we switched out Tom with Clement Mignon, which was also a good option for us. But Tom seemed to be in better shape. Actually, this is his best time. So
21 is absolutely great for Tom, yeah.
Even a best time here. For Maxim, he's been under 21, so maybe we wanted him to be a bit faster. I think he could have grabbed that 2nd or 3rd place. Definitely not beat Caleb, but maybe he could have gone 2nd or 3rd. But again, it is what it is. But yeah, it was pretty decent.
Okay, thank you, Dorina. And Kim, for you guys, Dylan Carter and Christian Gorhamev, 21.5 for Dylan and 20.8 for Christian. And I believe this is the fastest Christian beat all season, which is an excellent performance. And I also wanted to ask you about the personal rivalry between Christian and Caleb, because Christian was the big NCAA sprint star before Caleb was around. And is there some kind of tension going around that a little bit?
I don't know. Brian is like smiling. I don't know about that. It's out of the drama. So maybe Brian can answer that better than I can.
I don't know that there's anything going on there, but it's just kind of made me laugh to think that there is, because you never know, right? But
yeah, I never heard about it. Certainly Christian didn't, stand behind the blocks or in the warm-up pool and talk about Caleb. I took Christian as this is just his event. Like getting into some 100 was like pulling teeth. He loves that 50 and that's what he wants to swim, and he got up to race all the time. And if he wasn't racing, he was sleeping, relaxing. So I just looked at him as like this true sprinter who wanted to own the 50 free. And I know, like we talked about, Tom just wants to race the best in the world all the time. And, so that was cool. And he was very happy with this event. I do remember that and felt great about his swim. And so I wish I could tell you more about that rivalry, but I'm not aware of it.
Thank you, Kim. And yeah, these rivalries seem funny until they actually turn to reality. Just look at Ryan Murphy and Coleman Stewart.
Yeah.
But
I'm sure we'll get there.
We'll get there 100%. But Brian, with that being said, Justin Ress and Caleb Dressel for you guys in this race, and a 20.9 for Justin and a 20.2 from Caleb. First of all, this is incredibly impressive. And what was the reaction of the team after this? But the second question, just analyzing Caleb's performance in these last two ISL matches, semifinal 2 and the final, he dropped almost a second in the 100 meters butterfly, but yet he almost didn't drop in the 50 freestyle. Was this somewhat of a pitch perfect race for him, or how would you explain this?
So my take on Caleb's preparation, it's scary to think about, but maybe we didn't quite get to peak performance here, right? You know, I think maybe he was starting to come down and get ready for some things, but I kind of think there's gas left in the tank for the 50, and it would be interesting to see, you know, if it's a stand-up alone event and not in the middle of a 6-event day, what he could throw down. But by no means do I think this is not impressive. It was amazing, right? And kudos to the ISL. What was great is all the camera angles. Like, you could just literally see the power from any angle, underwater, above water, coming off the start, coming off the turn, the way he almost negative splits 50s. It's amazing. And then Justin Ress, that guy, he's as dangerous as anybody else, and just quietly played such a huge role, because again, here's another guy that was rarely out of the top 4 in any one of these matches. So
I also believe this was the first time Justin's been under 21.
right, I think this was the first time he dipped under 21, and he was 20.9 the rest of the way.
Well, I mean, Cali Condors at this stage, you guys had so many amazing swims already. It's sort of hard to imagine how the ball would stop rolling in a way for you guys.
That was just fun energy to roll along with, right? I mean, you always wish as a coach that fast swimming's contagious, and they tried their hardest to make it contagious, right?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you, Brian. And Brian, looking into the next event, the women's 50-meter freestyle, you had Erica Brown and Olivia Smaliga race for the Cali Condors, 24:01 from Erica and 23:91 from Olivia. What do you think of this race altogether? I believe 23.9 from Olivia is something you cannot be mad at. But
No, I think that was right at her PR, or is her PR. And same for Erica. That was her fastest so far in the ISL.
I think Olivia's been at 23:75 in the last season of ISL, but I could be mistaken. But for Erica, 24:01 is something you guys are happy with?
Absolutely.
Okay. And you wouldn't exchange this 24:01 and maybe put Natalie Hines at this 50 freestyle and Erica in the 1 fly?
Right. I think those were all things we talked about, and we just wanted to see how people would react. You know, this wasn't an event we expected to win at any point, I think. So we didn't want to get jackpotted. We wanted to make sure that we scored big points. And these two women just raced hard through it every single time.
Thank you, Brian. Kim, for you guys, I think arguably this was somewhat the upset of the meet for the LA Current, because Beryl Gastadella, Abby Weitzel, 2 huge names in the 50 freestyle, and their performance prior to this in the 50 freestyle, they were quite unstoppable in my understanding. But 23.6 from Beryl here and 23.5 from Abby, 2 amazing performances. And first of all, how important was it for Abby, do you think, to snatch the victory over Beryl? Because I know Abby showed up to the meet a little bit slightly more out of shape than Beryl did, and Abby for sure gained shape as the season rolled on. But Abby is not the person that's too used to losing and to being the second on the team at any event she's swimming. I mean, look at her NCAA career. Was it important for her self-confidence to snatch the victory over Beryl here, even though they didn't get the victory overall?
I mean, I think it, again, helped to build confidence for Abby, but as much as she wants to win, she's also I would say a really good team player. Like she was pretty selfless. Like there were times where word was she would like to not swim on the 4x100 free relay so she could be more fresh for this event. But when you would ask her, she'd say, no, I want you to do what's best for our team. How are we going to score the most points? So while I think individually, yeah, she would have liked to win the whole thing, and I don't know that I would agree with you. It's a huge upset. I mean, Ranomi, she's quite the 50 freestyler herself. So, I think we always knew going into this event that it wasn't going to be an automatic 1-2 for the current. While we would have loved that, so I think Abby was happy with her swim. Would we have liked to have taken that win? Absolutely. But I don't see a rivalry between Abby and B on our team. I think they push each other and want each other to do best. And if one of those two can get their hand on the wall first, they're first excited about their team points. And then, in the warm down pool, thinking about, okay, what can I do later to be that person?
Thank you, Kim. And for sure, every interview we saw with Beryl and Abby, they were incredibly supportive of each other. I was just interested how important was it for Abby herself? Because, I mean, being the second...
time in the season, I feel like she's kind of come into her own. Like, I think there were other important events, moments earlier in the season.
Okay.
It was towards the end, obviously towards the end here. And, so I think it was just part of the process and not as important as maybe you're hoping it was for her.
Thank you, Kim. And Dorina, this was the first big event for the Team Iron, I believe, because Melanie Heineke 23.89 and 23.37 from Ranomi. We'll speak more about Melanie because I think she's always a huge presence, no matter the match. But I believe this was the match where Melanie shined even a little bit more than usual, especially with her results. But Ranomi here, 23.37, a terrific result, and especially after the 100 meters butterfly, where we already spoke about this before. Yes, she can handle events after it, but she does tend to get quite a bit of lactic acid in her after that one fly. You guys must have been ecstatic after this. This is as good as it could have went for Team Iron, right?
Yeah, look, this is just this Ranomi's baby. The 53. She would just not have let anyone beat her in this event, I think. And this was the fastest she was this season. So it just speaks to her experience that she peaks at the right time. And go the fastest at this match. This is what we expected.
Really?
But it's we're always happy when, when the first place, and then when we go 1-2, I think I already told you in the other podcast that I think that's what means the most. That's when the team gets just so excited when you get a 1-2. But also when you just get a first place. And for Melanie, I don't think this was the best time, but right on her best time. So I think fourth place behind Abby and Beryl. I mean, again, she did her best for sure. So 1-4 is pretty good. And this is the time in the day one when we have to come back. We have to start getting back. Because we lost a lot of points in the first couple of events, so it was nice to see for sure. And Ranomi, you can always rely on Ranomi to bring the team back.
Thank you, Dorina. And it's hard to argue with you when you say this was expected and Ranomi was somewhat the favorite. She is the defending Olympic champion from 2012 in this event, and she's been historically game whenever it comes to the 50 freestyle. But when you compare her to Beryl and Abby, I believe Beryl and Abby are a little bit more stable in terms of results in the 50 freestyle. Ranomi has a little bit of a You know, she's sometimes on the 23-9, 24-0 side. Sometimes she throws down a 23-3. But Dorina, you correctly mentioned that when it matters, Ranomi, you can always rely on Ranomi. Is there anything special she does, something you can point out before like an important race? Or does she go through like a mental routine maybe? How does she get herself together for the one specific race that matters most?
Yes, I think this is all mental side. You know, she's just mentally so strong, and she rises to the occasion. I think I just watched a podcast with her, and this is what she mentioned as well. You know, the higher the stakes, the better she gets. And I think it's just experience. You know, she's been around for so long. She just knows how to get it done. And when you see her, when you watch her before the race or before a match, she just goes through her routine. Nothing matters. You know, she gets this tunnel vision, and she knows, you know, step by step going through the routine, and everything's gonna be okay. So I think it's definitely just mental toughness and experience.
Thank you, Dorina. And with that, let's move to the next event, the male 50-meter breaststroke. And Dorina, I'll get to you for sure. But just before this happens, Byron, for the Toronto Titans, you had Eric Pearson and Anton Mckee, 27-3 from Eric, and a 26-49 from Anton. We spoke a little bit with Anton on earlier podcasts, and he mentioned that he considers him more of a 100, 200 breaststroker than he is a 50 breaststroker. But here, 26:49 is an incredibly fast result. And arguably, I believe that's faster than what he performed in the 100 and the 200 respectively. Would you agree with me?
Yes, but you can, if you take a look at it, there's the real truth to that is that he was running out of conditioning. So he was actually getting sharper in the shorter distances as we get near the end of the ISL season, but he was losing a little bit of endurance. He wasn't able to hang on to the great 200 that he had in our opening couple of contests, but he found a little bit more speed, which does happen over time, I think, when you're getting into many, many races. So, I mean, there were only 3 guys that scored in this whole race because Emre jackpotted everybody else. So we were actually quite pleased that Anton was able to get up there and get in 3rd spot and do well in the skins when he had to do it. So it was a great swim for him. Eric's 200 breaststroker, and that's it. He's got no sprint fiber in him. So we knew he was never going to score a lot of points in the 50s. So weren't worried about that at all. But this is where Iron started to make their big move on us. They picked up a lot of points with Ranomi that we just talked about. And now with Emre, they picked up another 20 or something. So all of a sudden, our big 50-point lead over Iron, disappeared overnight. Disappeared in a heartbeat, actually.
Thank you, Byron. And Dorina, I mean, that lead did disappear with a 25.54 from Emre, only 0.3 away from the world record. 24 points going the way of Team Iron just from Emre alone. This was one of the biggest jackpots in the entire season, by the way, only paralleled with people like Caleb Dressel and Ryan Murphy. What was the team reaction? What was the swing of energy? Because yes, you could argue this was expected, but probably not such a large jackpot. 24 points.
Yeah, you know what? It's so interesting that you look at the time and his times this season and you say that this was an average swim. You know, 25.5, and this was not his best swim, not even the second best. So it's mind-blowing to say this. And I look at the points, 24 points, jackpotted almost the whole field. So it just speaks to, you know, his performance, how amazing he did this season. I think we see it in his other results this match. He was losing some momentum. He was getting tired, I think, a bit, not just physically, but probably mentally. You know, when you're chasing a world record for the last 3 matches, basically, you just at some point you get too exhausted to get to that point again. And I think this is what happened with him, especially with his lack of experience. I think he needs to learn to handle this workload better, I guess. So yeah, we were super happy. This jackpot brings a lot more excitement than just the win itself, for sure. It can hurt you a lot, but it can also help you and just bring so much excitement to the team. So yeah, we were super happy, and also with Ross, I'm pretty sure that was the season best for him.
Oh, was it?
And a
By
50
far.
place, and he's far from being a 50 swimmer, so that was a pretty good result from him as well.
Yeah, 26.6 from him. I don't believe he was under 27 previously. It was an amazing result.
Yes.
Yeah, and actually the level of competition in this race was really, really high. I mean, we had a bunch of people swim 26s, which in previous matches could have guaranteed them the win, but of course not with Emre present. Thank you, guys. And with that being said, let's move to the next event, and it is the male 4x100 meters freestyle relay. And to start things off, Brian, I wanted to ask a question to you. Your B relay was Jackson to Baklach to Kavecki and to Vance. And your A relay was, I'm going to butcher this one, Madrak, Rest to Cheslak to Dressel. And looking from the bird's eye view in a way, you guys have more 100 freestylers than LA Current, arguably. So I viewed you guys as a favorite coming into this event. But of course, LA Current came up with their A team racing, and you guys, this was almost the A team. But the only person, especially in the A relay, I believe that kind of didn't live up to expectations was Marcin Cieslak, the unsung hero of the rest of the season. But here it seemed like his energy kind of faded a little bit, and a 47-47 probably isn't what you were looking for, and most likely this is what guaranteed LA Current the win. With hindsight, do you see yourself putting Maxime Rooney in this? Sorry, apologies, of course not Maxime Rooney, but maybe someone like Kader Baklach even, instead of Marcin Cieslak, because he was a 46.8 in his respective leg.
Right. Well, we would love to pick those relays after the fact, but we felt like Marcin was the guy. I think if I remember correctly, he had some cramping issues during that event. So no offense to Marcin, I just think he was probably caught in that moment and unfortunate circumstance. But yeah, Cotter quietly had 100 split that would have put him on the A relay, I think, 2 or 3 times over the ISL event spectrum. So he really did a nice job off of his relay starts and did a great job playing that role. And so did Tate Jackson leading off that B relay. With a relay start, he could have been faster than Marcin as well. I think we were disappointed to lose this relay. I felt like we wanted to maybe send a message and maybe make sure we keep rolling. So to not win that particular time was, I think that we didn't expect to lose that relay. How's that?
Yeah, that makes total sense. I didn't expect you guys to lose that relay either. What about Townley Haas?
So we did this experiment with Townley the first meet, and we just didn't like how he reacted to doing this double between the relay and then his next event. And he was far too important for those points as far as getting wins in the individual events. And we felt like we could cover his relay base, although he's probably one of the top 3 splits. But you're right, we have a lot of strong 100 freestylers, so we didn't necessarily need to use him.
Thank you, Brian. Dorina, a question to you. You mentioned that the medley relay was incredibly important for you guys. But here in your A relay, you had Emre Sakci anchor at home pretty much right after the 50 breaststroke, knowing that the 4x1 medley relay is yet to come. how did you guys come to this decision? And 47-12 for Emre, this is quite impressive, although he has been 46-8, I believe. But right after the 50 breaststroke, it's still pretty good. But why?
Yeah, with the relays, it was a big challenge for us, and I would think that for the other teams as well, to find 8 people, 8 swimmers, and then especially if you want to rest some of them, it's really hard to just find guys to put in there. That's why we ended up putting Jaco and Leonardo Santos, who's 200, 400 IMer, because we didn't have any other choice. And with Emre, I think we thought that he could handle this workload because he did in the previous matches. As you said, he was always 46 right after the breaststroke event. So I think we didn't really have another option, someone to replace him, and we just thought that he would be fine. Now looking back, maybe we should have rested him as well. But at that point, we thought that was the best decision. And if you look at the medley relay, we'll see that it wasn't on Emre. We were farther than that couple of tenths maybe that we could have won there, gain here. So.
And Emre had the second fastest split in the medley relay, anyways. You can't be mad. Only losing to Felipe Silva by 4/100ths of a second.
Yeah, this is exactly why we thought that he could do it, because all the other matches and here as well, he has such a great endurance that, or even if you look at the skins races, he could handle it.
Thank you, Dorina. Byron, quick question to you, and this is kind of my traditional question in a way. What the hell was Andrei Govorov doing in this relay? And because why I ask this, because Andrei Govorov was not a relay only swimmer for you guys in this meet. He was swimming his 50s, and knowing probably by now you guys had the experience with Andrei Govorov. You know what the 100 freestyle is like for Andrei Govorov. Why did you decide to put him in this relay?
We were kind of stuck the way Dorina was. All right. We didn't have anybody else, to be honest. We had a couple of real stroke specialists that, their freestyles would have been 50 point. So we really didn't have a lot of choice. And so Andre said he would do it for us. And we decided to also that there was an ability, we wanted to get another athlete into the meet. And so in order to do that, we needed Andre to step away from his individual event and swim just relay only, which we did, the meet before to get an idea what he could do. So, we basically didn't have a choice, and he did okay with the other guys on the relay. That relay was never going to be very good. Our A relay was actually very loaded, and we did a great job. And if it wasn't for Caleb, we would have been second. But, our anchor man took off with 2-second lead, but it doesn't matter when you're up against Caleb Dressel.
Which is mind-boggling because this person is Brent Hayden.
I know, and he's a world-class athlete. He's an Olympic medalist from 2012. But you know what? Beating Caleb Dressel short course is another thing. A 44.9. I mean, I don't care how well you swim when you've got nearly a 2-second lead. He's going to catch you, and they did. So
it's probably quite challenging mentally when you have a 2-second lead. You're Olympic medalist in this event. Yet there's a guy 2 seconds behind that is catching up with every second. It's tough to race like that.
It's very tough, but you want to know what? It inspires you to go pretty fast. I mean, Brent did a good split on it, and our leadoff guy Yuri Kissel did his lifetime best time, 46.6. So as much as the iron was starting to catch us at this point, they had caught up that 50 points, and they were right with us. Our guys were still pretty motivated, and they threw down some pretty good splits, and we were right in the thick of it until right at the very end there.
Thank you, Byron. Thank you, Kim. What about for the LA Current? I mean, your B relay was Cristal to Ferreira to Selascar and to Sheffer, and your A relay, Rooney to Shields to Kolomeev to Carter. What a win to start to begin this conversation with you. What a win. This was a huge upset in my mind. I saw Cali Condors winning this 8 out of 10 times because yes, you guys had an amazing relay, but there's only one real 100 freestyler on this relay, it being Max and Rudy. I mean, was it an surprise for you also, this W here?
I hate to use the word surprise, but we were pleasantly happy. Yeah, I mean, you put together the 4 people that you think can potentially get it done. And as I look at the splits, we had the 2-second lead. And Dylan hung on by the skin of his teeth, right? Like it's, yeah, we knew that was a big relay to go up against. And, in the moment, that's what makes these guys great, right? Being able to hang on and get each other fired up and be prepared and yeah, to have literally, like you're saying, only one true 100 freestyler. I think this gave the entire team, the men's and the women's teams, a lot of momentum, a lot of excitement, because we knew we had, deflated a little bit of the Condors. Like, I love that Brian was really honest. Like, we wanted to win this. Like, we thought we had this. And so that's that little punch where you're like, so yeah, it was a good one.
Okay, thank you, Kim. And just regarding the team atmosphere, do you think this was the factor that changed stuff for Tom Shields from that 49-0 to 41-1, 48-1, just a couple of minutes after this? Do you think he got fired up from that relay?
I wouldn't be surprised. I didn't have that conversation with him but yeah, they were fired up. They were excited and confident and, ready to race, ready to keep racing. Yeah,
there was.
Tom takes care of himself so well between events. And yeah, so I wouldn't be surprised.
I remember this spectating this event. There was hands on the air, throwing water slabs. It was big.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kim. And with that being said, let's move to the next event, and it is a female 50 meters backstroke. And to start things off, I mean, Dorina, Carolyn Pilach, 26.79, and Melanie Heineke, 26.58. Great performance from Melanie. This is what I was kind of referring to when I said this was the time to shine for Melanie, because she's been up their game in the 50 fly, 50 freestyle, but 50 back. She's been swimming this event also, but I remember speaking to you on earlier podcasts, and you said that Melanie's a swimmer that every swim takes quite a bit out of her. She tends to build up lactic acid. So I was especially surprised seeing her perform so well in this 50-meter backstroke. Were you guys, I mean, I'm saying surprised too much on this podcast, but how did you guys react to this 50-meter backstroke from Melanie?
Again, this wasn't her best time. I believe she was 26.3 a match before or 2 matches before, but it was pretty good from her, as she's not a backstroker, but more like a 50 swimmer, can do any of the 50s except for breaststroke. In terms of the lactic acid, probably that's enough time between the 53 and the 50 back. The skins she cannot survive. That's what we talked about the last podcast. Doing 2 50s within 3 minutes, she died probably for an hour. Basically, she couldn't move, she couldn't breathe. But this was probably enough time for her. Maybe that's why she couldn't quite get down to 26.3. I would think. If she had a bit more time, maybe she could have down there to the best time. But yeah, so decent swim from him.
Okay, thank you, Dorina. Yeah, fair enough. I think I was a lot more excited about this swim than you guys were, it sounds like, because for me the 6 points for Melanie was huge in a field with Lisa Bratton, Kylie Massa, Olivia Smaliga, Erica Brown, Brill Gastadella, Ali Tetzloff. That is a packed field. Even if you don't.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think it's just with women's backstroke, we really didn't really have too much expectations. Maybe the 50 is the only one, but it's such a close race. You know, it's a 50. You just never know what what will happen. Within a couple of tenths. So maybe we were more excited than I am right now. I can see that.
Yeah, fair enough. It is quite late for you also. It's totally understandable. Thank you, Dorina. And with that being said, Kim, Ali Tatzloff and Beryl Gastadella, 26-9 from Ali and 26-4 for Beryl. Same lineup as the 100 fly, different results slightly. 26-4 from Beryl. Were you guys happy about this? And especially after the great performance of the London Roar's Kira Toussaint in the previous match with that world record. Was there any pressure on Beryl regarding this? Was she trying to maybe break the 26-second barrier? Because a 1 second away in the 50 for Beryl, it seems like quite a margin, you know, with the leader of the season.
Yeah, you know, I do remember not being thrilled with this race. I think that this is one event where she didn't get better through the course of the season. Her times didn't continue to drop. I think coming into this season, she kind of wanted to own this event a little bit more, but I think she found success in other places, and sort of her eyes were, you know, her vision was expanded of what she was capable of. So yeah, I think, I don't know, disappointed is not a good word to use, but I don't think she was very satisfied. And, you know, I'm with Dorina, like these 50s, it's like, and they come out there, and this is, I think, her third event of the day. And, you know, I know that they both gave everything they had. But I also am confident that B was already mentally preparing for the medley relay.
Thank you, Kim. And Brian, I mean, both Dorina and Kim mentioned that the 50 is very unpredictable and it's very close. You never know how it's going to go. But yet you have an athlete on your team, Olivia Smoliga, that continuously doesn't fail to perform up to her abilities in the 50. Even when there's a slighter, weaker match, I feel like Olivia typically doesn't have as fast of a time, but when the competition is there, Olivia just steps it up like it's nothing. How does she manage to do that? And of course, 25.75 from Olivia, 26.62 from Erica Brown. Erica Brown and Backstroke. Why not D-time?
Well, you mentioned this earlier, but the stage was kind of set. Not only was this a semifinal, but everybody watched a world record go down the day before, right? So there was a little bit more energy around this race, I think, for Olivia. And I don't think she needs much more motivation to get an edge going. So I don't think we were surprised with Olivia. Erica, this was, I think, a really good swim, good fourth place swim in a really talented field. So we were excited for that. And, you know, Erica is quietly as good underwater as anybody. So seeing her start to snap and respond to some preparation was really good.
Thank you, Brian. Yeah, it makes sense. And 25.75 is still an incredibly impressive performance, even disregarding the Kira Toussaint world record previously. Thank you, Brian. And with that, let's move to the next event, and it is the male 4x100 medley relay. And this was another big one. This was another big upset, in my opinion, but we'll get to it. And before we get to it, Dorina, Team Iron, your A relay was absolutely great. 49.96 from Robert Glinta, 56.55 from Emre Sachi, 49.67 from Nicolas Santos, and a 47.09 from Marco Orsi. You mentioned that the medley relay was the focal point of this day one for you guys. Are you happy with this relay? Because in my understanding, yes, you guys didn't manage to win, but I can't pinpoint a person that didn't perform almost at his personal best time.
Yeah, we were not particularly happy, to be honest. But you're right. If you look at the splits, maybe you can say that Rob, Emre, and Marco could have gone a couple tenths faster, but that's still not. We're still not too much closer to Cali and LA. So we probably hyped this event up for us a bit too much. we expected too much from this event. Yeah.
Okay, so the expectation was incredibly high, and
yeah,
just,
I would say yeah. I mean, Nicholas, 49.6 from Nicholas. I think that's the max that we could have got out of him.
We've seen sub 56 performances from Emre, right, in relays.
Yes, exactly. With the individual being under 56 in the individual, we kind of expected at least 56 low. Glinta swam 49.6, I think, the next day.
So, yeah, so we'll get to that for sure. That was a big swim.
Definitely in him. But sometimes it just doesn't work out. We rested, for example, Glinta, we rested him the whole day. We took him out of the 2 back. We took him out of the 4x1 freestyle relay. And it's still, again, it's under 50. So it's a really, really good time. But it's not his best, as he showed the next day. So sometimes it just doesn't work out. Just doesn't click. And again, even if they all did best times, we wouldn't have beaten the 2 California teams. So, but as Kim said, you don't have other. You're just gonna go for it. We didn't have anything to lose. That's why we made these changes in the lineup. We said, we're gonna give it a shot. We're gonna rest these guys, and we're gonna put all our eggs in this basket, and if it works out, works out. If not, not. And it didn't, unfortunately. But it was still a good results for sure.
Okay, thank you, Dorina. And just fantasizing a little bit. Let's say things did work out and you guys won this medley relay. What skins are you picking?
What do you think?
Breaststroke. And breaststroke seems the obvious pick, but another rematch between Caleb and Emre, that would have been interesting to see.
Yeah, because Caleb was getting faster and Emre was getting a bit slower, so definitely would have been a great matchup. I would say breaststroke right now, but not fly.
Not fly? Okay.
Would have been fly, but not with Caleb, so breaststroke for sure.
Okay, thank you, Dorina. Brian, first of all, your A relay consisted of Coleman Stewart to Nick Fink to Caleb Dressel to Justin Ress. Amazing relay. Did you guys expect to win this one as well?
I don't think we expected to win this relay. We knew that we were going to be challenged with our medley relay the whole year, but this was a really fun surprise, and we came close. And the guys really brought it. I think the close loss in the 400 free relay. Again, I'll reference the energy that was going on in the warm up pool. I don't underestimate it, and it was really fun. And I think that they were starting to build on that emotion, both teams. But I think this was Coleman's first or second time under 50 at the ISL in Budapest. And then Nick Fink was coming back from catastrophic injury and finally was finding his groove. Caleb and Justin really put down 2 solid anchor legs, and especially Justin, that 45.3 was moving right along. So to come close, we just would have loved to seen Caleb in the skins that we could pick, right? So I think we felt a little bit exasperated about that, but excited to come so close to the current.
And that was such a race. It was a treat to see as a spectator. It was a battle till the very end, for sure. And just the same question as to Dorina. If you had the ability to pick the skins, what would it be? Would it be a rematch against Mckee?
I think if we'd have gotten to pick the skins, we would have picked Fly or Freestyle.
Okay, makes sense. Thank you, Brian. Kim, for the LA Current, this was another one of these relays that I believe was huge, both in terms of points and in terms of how the match is going, because you get to pick the skins, but also just in terms of pure energy and pure, I don't know. That was such a big relay. And you guys had absolute heroes on this relay. The relay was Ryan Murphy to Felipe Silva to Tom Shields to Maxim Rudy, and 48-1 from Tom Shields. We already mentioned this before, but where the hell did this come from?
I don't know. I mean, it's like it's in the moment, right? I mean, we talk so much about the importance of winning those medley relays, and I will say we didn't talk about the women's one, but man, our women were trying to win it. Like we just, I think that was that's the coup d'etat of any of these matches we had, is getting to pick the skin. So you could see how it could swing a team from being a second place team to a first place team. So there was these guys swam that relay together all the time. I think it was really cool to see them bring Felipe into that mix. Like, he hasn't grown up in NCAA system. He's not swimming relays all the time. He's learning how to do relay starts all throughout the season, or better his relay starts. They just had like this brotherhood between the four of them, and I think that really helped propel this group of guys. But Tom was just, like you said, maybe the race before inspired him more. But I think the four of them together just decided what they wanted to try and do, and it worked out on this day for them.
For sure. And counting out Felipe Silva, these guys are all Cali guys.
Yeah.
That was a big relay.
No, Maxine's a Longhorn.
He's a Longhorn, but he went to high school in Cali, I believe.
Yeah.
Right next to San Francisco. Yeah. What a relay. Thank you, Kim. Yeah. And with that being said, let's move to the next event, and it is the male 100 meters backstroke. And to start things off, Byron, Cole Pratt and Ryan Shane for you in this event. 50.4 from Cole and 50.1 from Ryan Shane. How satisfied were you with this performance?
Well, for Cole, he's a youngster, and it was a great breakthrough for him to be able to just get in this field. I mean, the men's backstroke field, arguably, other than maybe taking the events that Caleb was in, was really the richest field around. And so for him to be able to be somewhat competitive with this field it was a huge step forward. As far as Shane Ryan was going, he did a great job for us in the entire ISL series. And this one was quite interesting because he was winning at the 50 meters mark. And if this would have been a 100-yard race, I think he would have won it. But boy, those last 10 meters, he started sitting in the water and just couldn't quite get to the wall. And 5 guys went by him. So, he had to settle for 6th, but you know what? It was still a good swim. I loved the fact that he attacked it and he just didn't quite have the finish. He wasn't far off his best time. It was just a very, very rich field.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Byron. For the Cali Condors, Radoslav Kavecki and Coleman Sturt. Brian, can you tell me a little bit more about the rivalry between Coleman Sturt and Ryan Murphy and how important this was?
I don't know what the actual rivalry is, but it was pretty fun, and I think it may have started the day before with Coleman coming so close to beating Ryan leading off the medley relay, right? I mean, I think it was 2 100s. So I think there was some energy directed towards the next day and maybe try to pick up a win. I'm not sure. I can't speak to it directly. But Coleman getting second and beating Ryan like that, that's probably a big deal for any athlete in their career to beat Ryan Murphy in anything. So I think that was certainly a big moment for Coleman and Coleman's mustache together. And then Rado's, that kid, he swam as fast in the ISL than he had in 4 years. So he was really taking care of business. And for him to come so close to being under 50, that was a really good swim for him during this period. So we're pretty excited for both of those swims.
Thank you, Brian. And yeah, Radoslav has been a legend when it comes to short course meters backstroke. He's really always been up there in game. But Coleman Stewart, I believe the rivalry started from an interview that Ryan Murphy gave, and he thought that the interview was over when it really wasn't, and he ended up saying some stuff about Coleman that probably he wished weren't live after a win from Coleman. And yeah, that was the initiation of the rivalry. But thank you, Brian. And Kim, I mean, this was probably the disappointment of the match for you guys. 50.56 from Dylan Carter. That is a good result for Dylan, no questions asked. But 49.81 from Ryan Murphy, and Ryan Murphy getting third. That's for sure not the result you guys were looking for, and especially not the result Murph was looking for. Tell me about the state of being of Murph after this race.
Yeah, Ryan was definitely disappointed, and you could see it. Again, I haven't spent a lot of time with Ryan either, but just watching his body language after the race, knowing that the team is in the hunt to get into finals, knowing that he just hasn't done the job that he expects himself to do. But again, not a lot of words about it. It's like he went to the warm-down pool and took care of business because he knew what he had coming at the end of the meet. So I think to me, that's a more interesting story than the fact that, he got third and it was disappointing. Like, how did he rebound from that? But yeah, of course, we were all disappointed, and I think we're a team, most teams are, that really build off of momentum, and this was for sure a speed bump, right? Like, oops. But again, I'm just so impressed with that rebound coming back, and we'll get to it in a little while.
Sure.
Yeah, so they all have their moments, and it's how you respond.
Outside of that, I mean, Ryan had an outstanding meet. He had a magnificent victory in the 200 backstroke. His 50 backstroke was on point. The skins, obviously, which we'll get to. But
I wish I could remember if there was something that happened during this 100, but I'm not going to make something up. I mean, I don't remember there being an issue with this race, a slip in the start, or anything like that. Like, he got beat.
Fair enough. Something that happens really rarely with Ryan Murphy. Yeah. Thank you, Kim. And Dorina, I mean, this was probably, once again, I'm using the word surprise too much, but Robert Glinta out-touching Ryan Murphy, that's got to be a surprise. Come on. And a 49.64 from Robert. This was his personal best as well, right? What a performance. And we spoke about getting the ball rolling the second day. The second day is a big day for you. There's no real better way of starting the day for you, day two, right?
Yeah, this was probably the best race for us, this match, even though it's not the most points. But this just meant so much for the team, especially, I don't know if everyone knows, when Glinta came to Budapest, she tested positive for Corona, and he spent 14 days in his room. And he came back. He missed the first match. He came back and started off with best times after best times. He he broke his best time and the Romanian national record, I think 4 times. So this was just very, very, very special. He's a co-captain of the team, and this shows why. You know, when he can come back this strong from such a disappointing start of the season, the team was just really happy for him to bring this home. And the same with Bassetto. This was the best time for him as well. So this was close to a perfect race for us, even though we didn't get the 1-2. And I looked at the times, and Bassetto came into Budapest with 50.7, which he broke 7 times as well, his best time. So it was just an unbelievable race for us. And, you know, we needed this. We knew that at this point, since Ellie Kern was swimming so fast and winning those relays, gaining a lot of points, we knew at this point that we didn't have the chance to get that second place, but it was still, you know, we just needed this. It was really, really nice for the team.
Thank you, Dorina. And from the point of view of ISL, I think ISL also needed this race pretty bad. Just because Byron already spoke about a little bit about the predictability of swimming. It does get sometimes a little bit too boring when you can for sure predict 50% of how the points are going to get distributed. This race, that went absolutely the other direction towards my predictions. And I believe this was amazing, especially for the spectators to see.
Yeah, it's both the times that they just went lights out. And also, I mean, beating Ryan Murphy and Coleman Stewart, you know, the two giants of backstroke in the ISL, it meant a lot.
You guys figure out your beef over there while Robert Glinta gets all the points, right?
What we also need to do is figure out, you know, maybe he's come onto a new type of taper here, 14 days out of the water without swimming, and he's done 7 best times. I thought that was somewhat illuminating as well.
Byron, I think you're onto something. You know, another person that did the exactly same thing and after that hit his personal bests, Andrei Gilken. Sorry, Byron, you're mute.
Yeah, I was muted there for a minute. I've got a heater that kicks in here, right? Every once in a while, and it's a bit noisy. Sorry. Yeah, anyway, I mean, sometimes we don't rest enough. I know that as coaches and with our athletes, but that's a really interesting example. If he had a lot of training beforehand, I mean, 14 days out of the water, most people would throw their hands up and say, well, I'm toast for the whole season, but he didn't. And a full testament to, you know, what Dorina's saying there is that, you know what, when you see a kid like that keeps fighting back and going, everybody's on side with that. And they're really happy. And it was really cool to see him do that, as much as he did beat our guy, but that's okay.
Thank you, Byron.
He did, just to say that he actually explained this, what you expected, that he put so much work in beforehand. That's probably the reason why he could kind of afford this 14 days. But fun fact, he actually wanted to pull out from the meet at like day 10 of quarantine. He said, you know what, Dorina, I don't think I can come back. You know, I tried to do as much exercise as possible in the room, but I just don't think that if I spend a couple more days in the room, I can come back. And I said, you know what, let's wait and see. Let's take it day by day, see how you feel. And this is where we got. So never
worked out great.
Sure. That's sometimes a little bit of braveness, a little bit of faith in yourself gets you a long way, right? And just to mention about this 14-day taper of potentially being the you say in the world of swimming in a way. Speaking to Andrei Gilken, a guy who did a very similar thing, what he told me was it worked out for him absolutely great for the first couple of matches. But then later on, he felt like he actually didn't have the base under him. These 14 days really affected his longevity in the meet as a whole in the season. Do you see that problem arising a little bit with such a long time off from swimming?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. You know, interesting that Glinta was able to keep going, right? At the level that he did, because you really should run out of gas big time if you've missed those 14 days. No question about it. I mean, you'd have to have one hell of a lot of hay in the barn, as the farmers would say, to be able to maintain something like that. So I wouldn't recommend anybody taking 14 days off right before a big competition, but it does show you the value of rest if you time it right and do things.
Thank you, Byron. And with that being said, let's move to our next event, and it is the male 100 meters individual medley. And straight from the gate, Brian marching chest like 51.14 and 49.88 from Caleb Dressel, and a new world record. That was absolutely huge. It was so hard for me to imagine a person going sub 50-100 IM previously. Obviously, after the final, that doesn't hold any value whatsoever. But this was also as close as we got to a full jackpot during the entire ISL season. Not only that did Caleb win 30 points himself, the remaining 7 points that he didn't jackpot also went to the Cali Condors. How big was this in terms of team energy and so on? And what happened to Caleb after that world record? Do you know? He was the first to congratulate. How did the events play out in the Cali Condors team booth?
So, I mean, Johnny, our head coach, was so data driven, and we kind of felt like if we jackpotted this event that we would win, even if we didn't get to pick the skins, right? So a lot of emotion from our team when he did that, not only from the performance, but the points gained. And then Marcin, that was a Polish record. So he swam fast, and so did Caleb. So just
12 years ago, that would have been the world record from Marcin.
Right. I mean, so I can't tell you, like, this might have been the most emotional performance to date, and maybe the competition. I know even in the finals, but there was a lot of buildup towards this particular event, and it certainly delivered. So really fun.
Oh yeah, and it was a spectacle to see as a spectator. Also, it was absolutely amazing. And by the way, you mentioned that Caleb has a little bit more gas in the tank of the 50. You feel like? Would you say the same about the 1 IM? Because this is just me speaking from the top of my head. I don't know for sure. But with 100 meters individual medley, seems like not something that Caleb would actually train for.
I think Caleb trains quite a bit of IM, and he's so good around his walls, but he's pretty hard on himself. I know he feels like he can go faster. So, and I'm not going to doubt him. I think he was still trying to dial in his breaststroke stroke count and make sure his transitions were timed. I think if he really did dial this event in, there might be a lot of gas left in the tank.
Thank you, Brian. It's such a letdown that Chad Leclerc can't do individual medley anymore. He used to be a medley swimmer, but then he had I think it was an ACL tear, and he can't do breaststroke anymore. But I think that would be the person to see the showdown between Caleb and Chad and the individual medley. That would be such a treat and a pleasure. But thank you, Brian. And Byron, another question to you regarding this event. You had the former world record holder in Sergei Fesikov in this event perform for you. 52.07, obviously he didn't receive any points for this, but did you speak to him after this event and all sort of his feedback? Seeing sort of the next step in swimming, because a 49.8 is leaps him down beyond a 51. Did he sort of reflect on that world record being broken?
Not per se, but at the same time, when we did chat, Sergei's world record was definitely a few years back. And he's sort of the veteran of the team now and was a great leader in that sense. But he basically just, when we're talking about the race, we're talking about everybody except Caleb. All right. Because that's how good Caleb is. You don't even talk about Caleb because he's going to win and he's going to beat everybody. So you're already admitting that he's a step above everybody else in the world. All right. Particularly in this given event, particularly in the short course. So you're basically looking at what everybody else can do. And you realize that Caleb is the future, if you want to call it that. He's the number one guy, and nobody doubts it. Sergei didn't doubt it. Nobody doubts it. So, I was quite pleased with our other guy, Finlay Knox, who got in there and set his personal best time in a Canadian record, but the field was rich. So, that only got him 6th or 7th place, I think.
Thank you. why I ask this? Kim, you have something to say?
I just wanted to say this was one of those events where like I was watching me. I wasn't watching our swimmers. I wanted to watch this event. Like I wanted to watch Caleb swim, and yeah, it was really impressive.
For sure. I remember myself also standing on my feet. There was no sitting for this, for sure.
Yeah.
This was a spectacle. And why I asked you this question, Byron, regarding the Szekeres' feelings after the race, because another person that was a former world record, I mean, he's actually the current world record holder, apologies, Amaury Laveau from the London Roar. Whenever Caleb swam the 100 freestyle, Amaury was very, very nervous. And whenever Caleb just missed this world record, Amaury had a little celebration. He would throw his hands in the air, says, "I'm still there, my record still holds." How's it for Szekeres? I mean, yes, he didn't hold the world record for a couple of years now, but was he happy? Was there any sort of emotions? Maybe because it's like a passing of the torch. It's a big event.
I mean, I think it's an appreciation. All right, this is a true sportsman. Sergey's been on the field, an international athlete for well over a decade. An Olympic medal under his credit and a relay for Russia, and I think there's an appreciation by an athlete when you see something absolutely stupendous, and that's what it was. I mean, Kim said that she just wanted to watch it. I mean, everybody wanted to see this because you knew there was greatness coming. And as an athlete and as a former world record holder, Sergey had already lost his world record to somebody else. All right. And yet he's there to watch and appreciate what this man can do. And that's really all he would express. And I think that's what anybody would express. It's quite special to see Caleb Dressel swim in person. It's unbelievable.
Thank you, Byron. And with that, let's move to the next event, and it is the male 50 meters butterfly, the last event we're discussing before the skins. And to start things off, Brian, Marcin Cieslak and Caleb Dressel, the OG double, once again, comes back for the 50 meters butterfly. 22:53 from Martin, 22:04 from Caleb, two excellent times. And especially impressive for Caleb. He's been swimming so much, and he obviously that 100 meters individual medley world record, and still at 22:04. What a result. But let's fantasize a little bit. Let's say there was none of that previous match before. Fresh Caleb, 50 butterfly. What do you think he's got?
Nobody would want a part of it. It would be crazy, right? I mean, and hats off to Santos. What a great performance, right? Making sure he's ready, and that was a fast swim. But God, I don't know. I mean, Caleb's an exceptional athlete and fresh and dialed in. I'm not going to be the one to predict that.
How the hell does this work out for you? I mean, 100 meters individual medley, Marcin and Caleb. 50 butterfly, not a long time after, same lineup. Are these guys made from a different material? Why aren't they getting tired?
It's pretty amazing, right? I mean, both of these guys had heavy lineups, and you say they don't get tired, but there's definitely some times when there's some fatigue, and they could be better, and they hold themselves to that standard too. I'm not saying anything that they wouldn't say themselves. So when you're at this level of competition and you're at this level of performance, to hold yourself to that standard is a high bar. Sometimes that bar is pretty hard to reach. And I'll just reference Ryan's swim in the 100 back. I think this is a similar swim for Caleb, right? This is probably his best event that he's not winning, right? So again, it goes back to what are you going to do to hit the reset button? Caleb says he gives himself 3 minutes of self-talk in the warm-down pool, and then it's time to turn it around. So that was an interesting insight to his mind, how he deals with performance and high performance on a regular pressure-filled basis, right? So yeah, It's just interesting to think about. We always would love to see this superstar high bar performance like that 100 IM. But what we're getting to see as part of this production is pretty amazing and pretty fun, right? Not only with Caleb, but with other athletes around the league.
For sure. And I wish I could get inside the head of Caleb Dressel when he does that self-talk in the pool. That would be the next level also. But could you maybe reveal a little bit more, like what is it that he says maybe, or what is it that he tries to achieve in a way with this talk?
So he's pretty technical, right? Like he knows where he made a mistake, or he knows what he needs to do better, and he knows that almost immediately. That'll be the first thing he says after a swim. But he's competitive, right? So no one likes to lose, and he doesn't like to lose. So whatever his dialogue is, it's probably revolving around those two things, right?
Thank you, Brian. And just last question regarding Caleb. You mentioned that he really doesn't like to lose. There was a couple of matches where you guys swam against Emre Sachi in the skins. And you guys were the ones to pick the skins. And you guys had arguably better choices to do other than breaststroke. But you guys still went for breaststroke. Was this because Caleb wanted a rematch against Emre?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
I don't think we ever got to pick the skins. I don't think we ever won a medley relay.
Energy.
My bad.
Energy and us.
It's my mistake. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Brian.
Okay.
And with that being said, Kim, I wanted to ask a question to you. Christian Glockamev and Tom Shields, 23-13 from Christian and 22-61 from Tom. 22-61 from Tom is great. Tom is nowhere 50 butterflyer. He leans more towards the 200 side. But for Christian, especially after his 50 freestyle performance, it seemed like he had a little bit more. And with hindsight, would you put someone else instead of Christian in this event? Because you have some people to pick from, even mentioning Dylan Carter. Dylan Carter has an amazing 50 butterfly.
Yeah, we really started to learn more about Dylan's 50 fly. I think it was in the finals where Dylan really, or it was after 50 back. Dylan was all over the place. I don't know. Those are the questions that you asked that get me. In hindsight, would you do something different? You know,
I apologize.
I mean, we all would, right? Like, had we known now, I don't have a good answer to your question for that. I don't know. And I think I told you on the last, the other podcast I did with you is, I feel like I had more influence and input on women's lineups than men's. I mean, we all talked about it together, but I don't remember the full thought process behind putting Christian in here versus Dylan. Yeah, so.
Thank you, Kim. And Dorina, this was sort of it wasn't the closing event, but for Team Iron, this was kind of felt like the closing event a little bit, because this was the last event you guys had the ability to sort of steal the spotlight just for yourselves, because A, you had the ability for Nicolas Santos to maybe break that world record, and B, there was a big jackpot coming. We knew this for sure. I mean, Caleb was the only real opposition that Nicola had coming into this. And of course, 2180. What was the reaction after that? If we don't count the previous performance of Nicolas before this, obviously this would have been great. 21.8 is an amazing time, especially for a 40-year-old. We can't stop mentioning this. Nicolas Santos is absolutely amazing, but he probably really wanted to beat that world record, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, when you're 500s from the world record, you cannot feel anything other than, damn, that was close. You know, and he was 21.78, I think, the last match. So he's right around that. Obviously super happy and excited about beating Caleb and getting first and getting that close to the world record. But I think you know, you're just waiting to see the scoreboard and what the time is, and you kind of feel, yeah, that was the last shot that he had at this ISL. So yeah, but again, it's a 50, and you know, you just never know what could have taken to get that other 500s. Yeah, but I think beating Caleb, even if it's, you know, it's such a loaded lineup after 100 IM world record, it's always special. And you mentioned Emre beating him as well. I think we're really proud that we had two guys who managed to beat him.
Yeah, you guys should be. That is the biggest name in the world of swimming right now to beat. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, and you know, it's great to have these moments and these events for us, even though we didn't end up making the final, but we thought we made some great waves during the season, and this is one of them, and Nicholas is one of them, Emre other one, Glinta, Ranomi, Melanie. It's just, yeah, it makes it really special.
And I actually recall this race, Nicolas Santos swimming that last 50 butterfly, and I think he actually missed that turn. He was really long at that turn. Huh?
Could be, I don't remember.
He was really long in the turn, and it brings a question of how fast could he be if he gets that perfect race. I really hope to see Nicolas Santos in the next season of ISL. Thank you, Dorina. And with that being said, let's move to the female skins. And they were done on breaststroke. And my first question goes to Brian, because Brian, you guys were the people who picked this stroke for the skins. And the question is, was there any idea other than breaststroke? I mean, obviously Lily King is the heavy hitter, but Olivia Smoliga and backstroke maybe?
Yeah, we went back and forth with this quite a bit, almost every meet, because we knew we would have a chance to win the skins. And early on, we just flipped it, let breaststroke one and backstroke for the other. But then when we started getting into the semifinals and finals, it became more important to try to discern which event we might have a chance to jackpot in, where we could score more points, and really ring the bell on points. So I think that's why we picked breaststroke in the end.
And would you say breaststroke is the easiest stroke on the body for the skins?
For this season, it certainly looked like it.
Thank you, Brian. Dorina, a question to you. Jenna, Lauken, and Ida Hoka. These are two swimmers that we didn't speak about much during this semifinal 2 analysis, but they were also kind of the unsung heroes of Team Iron. They were always game. They were always performing up to the abilities. We saw countless 104s from them in the 100 breaststroke. And I just wanted to hear from you. That was yes, sort of the big highlight of the meet, or the last highlight, as to say, was Nicolas Santos with that amazing 50 butterfly performance. But that must have been heartwarming for Team Iron also. I mean, you guys knew that you were out of the meet at that point after the semifinals, but seeing these two girls make it to the second round, it must have been big, right? It must have felt good.
Yeah, and on the first place, just we were excited for them to try out the skins finally, because the last time when they had a shot, and I think it was Cali Condors, and we expected them to pick breaststroke, and they picked backstroke, and Jenna and Ina were very disappointed. They really wanted to do the skins, so in this match, first of all, we were just happy for them to have this opportunity to try out the skins. And they did their best for sure. Both of them got through the first round, and it wasn't too far from getting into the final round. So definitely
a couple of 100s,
yeah, definitely very happy with their performance. And again, just having this chance was great for them.
Thank you, Dorina. And Kim, a question to you. There was quite an unexpected name in this breaststroke skins, as to say. Beryl Gastadella, 31-23. That obviously didn't quite play out as you guys maybe expected it. But what was the idea behind this? Just to sort of see where Beryl is at. Did Beryl ask for this herself? How did this come into life?
Well, it was kind of late in the season just to see where B was at in breaststroke. We did not have a good lineup for 50 breast. I mean, it just, no way around it. And you can see, and we used Abby once, we would use Anastasia, and we just didn't have to be breaststrokers. So I think Dorina said it earlier, like, these sprinters, they can swim, you know, any 50 except the breaststroke. And that's what we found with B. She gave it her best. She was like, put me in. You know, it's the end of the meet. I'll try my best. She's super competitive. She's fast off the blocks, all those good things, but it didn't work out. We won't do it again, I'm sure.
Yeah, and she did have quite a event-heavy meet before this. It's really hard to blame her. But just one more question, Kim. I had a chat with Tom Rushton last week, the coach from Energy Standard, and he voiced an interesting idea regarding breaststroke pullouts. He believes that freestylers and backstrokers have the strongest breaststroke pullout because they're very long, used to being long here, to catching the water. Seeing Beryl in this race, it didn't seem like the pullouts were working for her as well either. Do you agree with this understanding of Tom Rushton regarding pullouts? And if yes, do you feel like Beryl Gastadella sort of lacks the experience in breaststroke and she sort of rushes it a little bit in a way? And there's definitely room for growth in this regard?
Well, if I remember this correctly, B had a super long pullout. Like, she was underwater forever. We're like, get up and swim. And I think lack of experience is the exact perfect phrase. I mean, she just doesn't race this event. Looks like Byron wants to say something. Yeah. You had your finger up like, wait a minute.
Yeah, there you go. Well, I think that's it, experience. And I think it's a very interesting comment, Ivan, because I think butterflyers always have really good pullouts because they're used to doing a nice wide and then, you know, pulling straight down to their hips. Breaststrokers, basically, I've got a very good breaststroker on my team, and we're constantly working on his pullout because he's just doing a little skull in front of his face, and they're not used to the big pull down. And I try to explain to them that it's almost a butterfly stroke when you're going to do a big pullout. Not so sure I've seen the freestylers succeed, but I've seen a lot of the butterflyers with fantastic pullouts like Caleb Dressel and many others. So Beryl will probably be very good at it if she just worked on it a little bit more. That's all.
Okay, thank you, Byron.
I don't think it's in her big priority list. I think the priority is for the LA Current to get a 50 breaststroker.
That does make sense also. And by the way, no blame to put on Julia Sebastian. How many South American records she set? Quite a bunch.
Yeah, almost every time she swam. I mean, she was phenomenal. She was great. But again, more 100, 200, and she did a great job. But, you know, look who we're going up against. It was just, you know, we cringed every time that the Cali Condors won the women's medley relay.
You know, it'd be breaststroke.
Yeah.
And as a quick other point, Ivan, if I can just mention, it's the girl that we had, Jennifer Concepcion, set a South American record for the 50 breaststroke. The one that your girl wasn't setting. This is the one that she set, right? First girl ever under 30 seconds. Now it only got her 5th place, but the thing that really impressed me was that Lily King did her fastest 50 on the 3rd one. To me, that was unbelievable. All right, that an athlete is that good, and maybe she didn't quite have to go flat out on the first one, but still, that was a remarkable achievement to be able to get faster and then faster, go fastest on the last one, I should say. So that was pretty impressive.
For sure. Thank you,
Again,
Byron.
another race where I'm like, I just want to watch the race. Like, I want to watch Lily swim. I want to watch Lily and Molly race each other. You know, no disrespect to our women on the team, but it was like, when we get to watch the best in the world and that close live, like, for me, that was, you know, another race I just wanted all eyes on.
Sure. And Brian, I mean, we've already started this a little bit. I mean, everyone was excited to see Lily versus Molly. I was part of these people for sure. I was part of the hype train. How was the race in general for you guys? Oh, how is the reaction of the team? And another big question: there seem to be two strategies involved when slimming the skins. One strategy was to save up as much as possible in the first 2 rounds whilst making it to the next round, and then give it all you got in the last round. But another alternative strategy, which proved to be incredibly fruitful, it worked out for Yashimanovic greatly, was to go all out in the first 50, try to jackpot as many people as you can, and then just like see where that takes you. And with that approach, Ilya Shimanovic was able to beat Emre Saci in skins in terms of points, even though he lost by quite a big margin the second round and the third round. And where I'm going with all this is, any ideas regarding strategy to tell Molly Hannes to just go all out in that first 50? See how big of a jackpot you guys can get. Because you got Lily King in the later rounds who's got this in the bag, right?
Yep. Yeah. So, Lily's the king, right? Lily's the best, but Molly is the one that really made us be able to pick breaststroke skins and know that this was the big point jackpot, right? And there were these two women had different strategies, and Lily's was to descend her efforts with some control and then all out, because that's the kind of athlete she is. But Molly, her efforts were all out from the start, because we were worried that I think the meet before she got touched out and got 5th. And so we were making sure that she knew her first effort had to be her best to move on, because if she did, she'd keep moving on, because that's the kind of athlete she is. She basically went the same time 3 times, and Lily descended.
Second time was her fastest.
That's right. But, some of that is how the race plays out. But I think that first effort for Molly was pretty strong, if not all out, on that particular sequence.
Mind-boggling. If you have a look at Backstroke, I would argue some of these backstrokers didn't even go all out in the first round, and then they would have like a 1 second drop coming to the second round. Not for breaststroke, right? Is it because they have
esoterically, I think, underwater with that backstroke and underwater kicking, like at that level of talent and those big bodies, both men and women, like there's a lot of turbulence. Like to get through that heat of 8, like you might get bounced around pretty hard. And then in a round of 4 and a round of 2, there's less turbulence and cleaner water. So I think that might factor into some of that, but not all of it.
Right. Makes sense. And with that being said, let's move to a final event of the semifinal 2. And it is the male 50 backstroke skins. And Kim, to start things off, you guys were the ones to choose backstroke. Any ideas for other strokes?
I think every time we had the opportunity to choose the skins, we bounced around between fly and back in particular. But I think that, at this point, we felt like Ryan was more of a sure thing. And Dylan was coming on. And yeah, I think we felt pretty confident that backstroke was going to be where we would land, but we always debated fly.
From the point of view of a spectator, I wish it was butterfly, even though backstroke was amazing to see. But Tom versus Caleb in the butterfly skins, that would have been something to spectate for sure. But thank you, Kim. And to start us off, Byron, Sergey Fesikov and Shane Ryan for you in this event. And Shane Ryan just decided to win the first leg out of nowhere, 22-91 for Shane Ryan. what a result. Was the strategy there sort of what I was mentioning to Brian earlier regarding the regarding starting off as fast as you can and then just try hoping for that jackpot to come? Was this the strategy with Ryan?
I think the strategy was, this is a hell of a field, and if you don't go pretty darn fast, you're not going to make it through. I really think that was a little bit more of what the strategy was. So, you know, he let it all go and had a great start, and he hit his turn. He's had odd times he's been a little bit too long on his first turn, so he hit it dead on, and of course he touched the wall first. And, you know, I talked to him afterwards and I said, okay, you know, we're here. What do we need to go and everything, right? And before the race, actually, he had said, yeah, I think Ryan Murphy was saving in the 100 back. I don't really think he gave it his all because he's saving, because he knows he's actually going to score more points in the skins if he wins the skins and goes all the way through. And he might have just held back on his legs a little bit in the 100 backstroke. I was stunned at the logic, and it actually made sense to me. Don't know if it's true or not. Maybe Brian can shed light on that, and maybe no one will know. Ryan might not tell anybody, but subconsciously Ryan might have been saving a little bit. So basically Shane knew that he had to get up and really go. And so he gave it everything he had, and it hurt him a little bit. And he was a little bit long going into the turn in the second round. And that cost him, I think he missed by 2 100s or 4 100s or something. And so he just missed getting into the final.
Thank you, Brian. Kim, do you think that was true? Was Ryan saving up a little bit on this 100 backstroke?
I don't think so. Not strategically decided by the staff, no.
Thank you. A question to you, Brian. I mean, Cali Condors had Justin Ress and Coleman Stewart in this event. And my first question is, any aspirations at all to maybe put Caleb Dressel in there? Just not saying that Justin Ress or Coleman Stewart weren't good enough, or that Caleb Dressel didn't have enough events already in this meet. But we've never seen the backstroke from Caleb Dressel. It would have been a spectacle to see, just to see what he's capable of in the skins. Just like Fabriel Gastabella for the LA Current and the breaststroke skins. It would have been interesting to see.
It sure would have been interesting, right? We're all very curious.
But it's probably tough to tell Justin Ress that, hey, we want to give Caleb Dressel a shot at the backstroke. Can you not swim the skins, right?
Well, I think they're just as curious as anybody else. If we would have asked them for a spot, they would have given it up. So, but again, with same with Barrel, and I think even Caleb would admit when he had to do the 50 breaststroke in the skins, he was still adjusting to that. So I think his adjustments that he would have had to make in the backstroke would have been even more of a stretch. Although when he prepares for something, he gets ready. So if he had a little bit of a heads up going into the season, maybe, but it's definitely not his forte, but he's still so talented. It would be fun to watch.
Okay, thank you. And regarding Coleman Stewart, 22.98, 23.403, and a 25.79. Tell me about the state of Coleman after these skins.
So I think for Coleman to make the final was a huge accomplishment, right? He had to go all out on both 50s and just see what happens. And I don't know if he expected to make the final, but when he did, I think he had accomplished his goal. And I also think he was pretty wrecked at that point.
Fair enough. And then you have that Ryan Murphy guy who's been talking smack on the interview, and now all of a sudden you get to the last round and Ryan Murphy is still fresh.
That's right. Well, Ryan Murphy
position to be in. Yeah. Thank you, Brian. Dorina, for you guys, Guillermo Bassetta and Robert Quinta, the same representation as in the 100 backstroke, apologies, and a 23.09 from Bassetta. Unfortunately, he failed to make it to the second round, but not Robert Quinta. 23.03 and a 24.04 in the second round. He ended up missing the final by just 1/100th of a second, smallest margin possible. Was this sort of, what was the team energy and team booth like when this all happened? Tell me, because this was the last event of Team Iron in season 2020. And it was a big one. I mean, Robert Glinta and Guillermo Bassetta, after the 100 backstroke, you had all the rights in believing these guys had a shot at least making it to the final, right? So this was kind of the last adrenaline rush for you guys, right?
Yeah, but again, in this field, I wouldn't say that it was expected for them to make the final. I mean, again, best time for Grinta. Bossetto was a bit off from his best time the day before, but less than 2/10 off. So I think we were just happy that at least one of them got through. And again, it was just so close, 1/100th of a second. But this is a great field. So I think we'll take it. We'll take it any day, this result.
And the field was stacked, to say the least. I mean, this could have been the final of the World Championships short course meters easily in the 50 backstroke. Just looking at this lineup. Thank you, Dorina. And Kim, for the LA Current, last event of the match, and you got Ryan Murphy in there going in 22.93, 23.76, 24.23. Now with Ryan Murphy, I don't know if you would agree with me, but I believe once he makes it through that first round in the backstroke skins, you're safe, right? There's nothing that can really happen. And this is because looking at these people performing here, they're all sprint backstrokers. Yet Ryan has the ability to finish at 200, right?
Yeah, which is why we would often land on backstroke when we pick the skins. You know, our team wasn't in a position where we could be very playful and curious about who, let's see how someone does in the skins. We needed to score points and keep moving ahead. So yeah, you go with your, with what you're confident in and secure that there's a good potential to win. And yeah, getting through that first round. And that's the way we felt about with Tom too. We had Tom in the 50 back skins for the first couple of matches, and it was like, God, just get through that the first swim, and then we felt like he would have been really good as well, but he didn't have enough of that front end speed in the beginning. So yeah, that was what was fun about Ryan, is you just knew that he could every 3 minutes throw down a great 50 back.
And it seems like it's not a trend in global backstroke to have people racing both the 200 and the 50. It's relatively rare. Yet Ryan is the absolute champion of this. How do you think he combines the 200 and the 50 events? Why is he capable of being so great in both?
I think we would have to ask Dave Durden that.
Fair enough.
I wish I knew. I'd be developing some backstrokers like Ryan then. But Dave Durden coaches him now for years and years and years, and they've got a great relationship, and they're clearly doing some things really, really well.
Thanks, Jim. And just last question, do you think Ryan is a type of guy who's a natural sprinter and sort of has worked himself up to the 200, or is he a natural sort of mid-distance guy who's capable of doing the sprint now because he's been working on it?
Again, question for Durden, but just from my little experience with him, I mean, really just 6 weeks, I would say he's more a middle distance guy that comes down. He's very strong. He's super fit and really, really competitive. But I think it would, if he were just more of a true sprinter, I think it'd be very challenging for him to be as dominant as he is in the 200. But that's just, my opinion after 6 weeks.
Thank you, Kim. And thank you to all of you, because this about concludes our analysis of semifinal 2. It was an absolute pleasure to talking to each and every one of you. And before I let you guys go, any final words to the fans? Brian, do you want to start? Brian, you're mute.
I can't tell you how much I'm looking forward to next season. I think this season was such a special moment in time because of when it happened and how it came together. And I think next year is going to be a lot of the same. I think there's going to be a lot more awareness of the ISL and how the events go and who is where and what teams are doing what. So as people become more familiar with the league, it'll be a lot of fun. But Cali Condors, here we go.
Their doors for sure.
Good year.
Thank you, Brian. Kim, any final words to the fans from you?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm preaching to the choir right now if they're listening to the podcast, but the more people that can get involved in watching the ISL, I talk about it all the time. I'm around a lot of young swimmers, master swimmers as well, and it's such a great way to watch swimming, and I think it's going to be really interesting to watch the ISL compete after the Olympic Games. I think it'll be really interesting to see how those two meets juxtapose one another. So I'm really looking forward to that. But it's a great opportunity for swimmers. It's a great opportunity for the fans to get involved. And I also look forward to, I haven't heard much yet about how the draft is going to take place, but I think that will be pretty interesting to see how teams get shaken up a little bit, and if there becomes a little more parity between all the 12 teams. So I'm very curious to see how that rolls out as well.
Thank you, Kim. And I do have the ability to reveal how the draft works, but unfortunately not during live. We will have a big reveal, but if you wish to stick around after the Zoom ends, I will gladly reveal how it's going to work.
I'll be sticking around.
But thank you, Kim. And Dorina, any words to the Team Iron fans, especially considering this was sort of the home crowd for you guys, and
home crowd without the crowd.
Home crowd without the crowd. Hey, we had a couple of Hungarian people present. It was somewhat of a presentation.
Yeah. Just like Brian said, looking forward to season 3, hopefully with a crowd. I think that would add a lot of excitement to the racing and to the swimmers, for the swimmers. And just in terms of iron, you can expect the same fighting spirit from us, and the same exciting swims and lights out swims from our swimmers. And I expect us to make the final next season, finally. So that's definitely our goal. Yeah, so Team Iron.
Let's go, Team Iron. By the way, when is LA Current going to come up with their own signature sign? We have Cali Con. Oh, okay. Why? Then you need more swimmers to do it.
Did it? There's just such a rush to get to the blocks. It's not as easy as this thing, and
I haven't seen any Toronto Titans miss out on this.
That's right. Easy to do.
Yeah. I don't know. I'll work on that. We'll figure that out.
That's your job, Kim. There you go.
If we don't have a very good signature sign for the LA Current next season, we know who the first person to come to ask for answers. Okay.
I think that we did have a great system at every meet of being like, we had our LA Current, our like kind of the last team to be heard before the start went off. Yeah, we did, Brian.
Thank you, Kevin, and thank you, Dorina. Byron, final words to the Canadian fans and to the fans of Toronto Titans in general.
Well, what the Toronto fans would like to do is like to host the meet. All right, we're unfortunate in this pandemic. We were really, really looking forward before the pandemic hit, of course, to hosting a couple of meets. I mean, we were lined up for one in October, one in November, and I don't know what's going to happen. Obviously, there's different ideas and scenarios playing out for the next season right after the Olympic Games, and it may not happen this coming season, but it'll really be a bonus because there are lots of people that I run into say I would die to come and see a meet, and I really, really want to, and I hope Toronto hosts. And my answer to them is we're going to host as soon as we solve this pandemic thing, and we can get some of that done. So that's sort of the first thing. The other thing I'd like to mention, which is really interesting, that you'll like to hear this actually, I mean, is that a lot of the local clubs, because we're still on a bit of a lockdown here in Canada, a lot of the teams actually are having a hard time even getting into the pool. When they do, we haven't raced in this country now in 12 months. And so what they're doing is they're doing inter-squad racing, and they're doing the exact replica of the ISL order of events. And that's what they're doing. They're calling it actually an ISL format inter-squad competition.
I've heard about
so they're
this.
already getting on side with the old concept of ISL, which I think is good. It's catching on. And, we as coaches and managers and people involved obviously do need to sell it more to get more eyeballs watching, et cetera, going in the future. But there's a lot of great things that are happening, and we're looking forward to it. We're looking forward to the draft for sure, because, we're an expansion team. So we were really behind the 8 ball. We just got very, very lucky with all the hard work we did in recruiting some of the people we did that turned out to be the diamonds in the rough that we thought, so we could win some races. But we need a lot more power if we're going to be able to make the finals. And hopefully the draft is going to help us in that regard.
Thank you, Byron. And from the point of view of ISL, we're incredibly happy that there's meets that are adopting our format of competition, because the overall idea when we first started doing this was just to make swimming more entertaining to watch, to get more people on board. And we're really happy that people are adopting the system, sort of stepping away from the long established norms, and it seems like it's working out.
Yes.
I know that there's a bunch of meets in the UK that have adopted the skins race now, but they do it quite brutally. They do it 6 times, which usually results in some vomiting at the end. But hey, it's very entertaining to watch.
Well, they're trying though. See, it's part of it is the stimulation, right? It's an idea, and maybe somebody else wants a little bit different, but it's made them break the mold of what was done forever, and it was not necessarily exciting, really. I mean, arguably, a lot of meets are like watching paint dry. So, if you can do something like that, it's stimulating everything to get better. So.
Thank you, Byron. Thank you to all of you. Once again, it was a pleasure talking to all of you. And to everyone listening, thank you so much for tuning in. Our next podcast with the athletes will happen this Wednesday. Then we'll have another podcast on Friday. And the analysis of our final analysis of this entire season is happening on Sunday. And you guys better not miss it, because it's going to be a good one. And thank you so much to everyone who was on this podcast. It was a pleasure, and goodbye. Guys, with this being said,